Hello, everybody. Welcome to Boss Talks. This is episode 18. I'm excited to have my guest, Bo Schneider. He is from the Midwest, Iowa, but he's been all over the nation when it comes to his career path and where he has been a property manager, both within conventional housing and student housing. So he's learned a lot. He's been in industry for just around 9 years, but he's been awarded a few different awards, most recently by the Tailwind Group. He's been there, I want to say, did he say a year? Nonetheless, he was awarded the Innovation Award, which is a great thing. I'm a big fan of innovation, so I want to hear more about that. But it is time to bring Bo to the show. Bo, welcome.
Hey, Evan, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. Great to meet you just a few months ago and to get to know you during our pre-call and watch you on LinkedIn and the things that are going on. Like I mentioned, you just got an award, which is awesome. So if you want to speak about that to kick off, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with the Tailwind Group, a company based out of Mankato, Minnesota. They've really been expanding their portfolio and operations as a whole throughout the Midwest and even stretching down into the Southeast region of the United States. For the company, though, I was awarded the 2022 Top Innovator Award. Definitely been fortunate to find Tailwind and them to find me. We've partnered on a lot of things, and I appreciate that they are open to input from the on-site level and community level for different things that we can do on the operations to help the company grow and operate as a whole. That was a key component to me being awarded the Top Innovator Award, and I'm definitely grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's cool that they recognize innovation because that's one of those things that kind of happens over and beyond your job. And it's not necessarily like your job title. So it's just things that could be done different. And then you just really take it upon yourself to implement change or try something new, or which then can be a benefit to the company and to others that are in your role. So
Yeah,
it's really cool
absolutely.
that you did that.
Yeah, I think one thing that really led to it was my background and coming from a few different companies myself, and even being in different regions across the US as well. Piecing together different things that I've liked and finding efficiencies kind of helped me bring that viewpoint to them.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Before we go any deeper into like professional property management stuff, I'd love to know more about just your background, how you grew up, and your heritage, which I know you're really proud of. So I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I was born and raised there. Both my parents went to a university. I was a junior college at the time called Haskell Indian Nations University. They decided to settle down there and raise our family. So again, born and raised there. And I myself, I found my way to attend that same university and was fortunate to play basketball there for 4 years for the college. But it's a private Native American college university right in the center of the United States of America. So a lot of my peers, a lot of my co-students, even friends and people that I now consider family are from all over the different corners of the United States, which is pretty neat. We're all from different backgrounds within the Native American community. So we have different cultural values, but we also share some of the similar ones as well. And that really kind of help grow my own perspective and understanding that there's definitely different viewpoints and different values out there, and just being open to them. It's something that I've carried over into different parts of my life as well. Definitely a fun talking point for me. I enjoy talking about Haskell Indian Nations University. Again, it provided me with a platform, a institution of learning that has really helped me grow in my career to this day. It's something I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's great. And is there anything that was a part of your upbringing or what you learned at Haskell tied to your heritage that kind of like embodies how you're driven even?
I think just understanding that the truth that you may be told might not be the whole truth. So I know, and growing up in Lawrence, Kansas, it was away from my culture altogether. I wasn't raised on a reservation or near our tribe's lands. And I was brought up in a very westernized education system, and it was a great one at that, not knocking that by any means. And I excelled, I succeeded in my upbringing and my education. But when I got to Haskell, you start learning that there's a little bit more truth to the stories, especially when reviewing history, tribal sovereignty, a lot of different aspects of being a sovereign nation, and just the different history that each tribes have had to deal with that really expanded my outlook on just everyday life and business and a number of different things, honestly.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we can't always take what, Truth is relative. Like,
Absolutely.
who's telling you the truth?
Yeah. Is
What's
there
their
truth, the
perspective?
almighty truth? Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then beyond that part of your life, was there anything else a part of your, I guess, in college or coming out of college that like steered you in a certain direction? You got into, I think, student housing immediately. But how did that happen? Like, how did you get into student?
Yeah.
There's a common story. I don't know if yours is the same, but
I'd say mine probably the same as most is that most people don't go to school to become a property manager or fall into this industry. It's something that just happens out of sheer luck.
yeah,
And for me, it was something that in the same. I think something that really drives me in my career and for performance altogether is I have a sports background. So, playing basketball in college, but I grew up playing a variety of different sports and being a different role player on each and every team, understanding when it's time to be a leader and when it's time to be a role player and responsible for your certain duties. And something that was easily translatable into a career. No matter what career you go in, there's going to be different levels of leadership and or role playing. And so for getting into student housing in general, it's something that after I graduated from college with a business management degree, I really just started applying for jobs that had manager in the title. I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity for a leasing manager position in my hometown. I went all in on that one, was fortunate enough to be selected as the candidate for the position. And the rest is history after that. I fell in love with it. I think one thing I really enjoy about the industry itself is the amount of social interactions that you have, relationships that you build, not only with your peers or coworkers, but even with your resident base, whether that be current or former. It's something that I've enjoyed in getting to know and build rapport with residents and people and families that are really searching for a home, and providing them with the best presentation and the best community for them to call home is awesome to me.
yeah, that's great. So the things that you're most passionate about really deal with, I look at your career path. You've taken a lot of risks in the sense of taking on new roles. You've moved new places, which for a lot of people, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to just up and move across the country to a new place where I know nobody. So you've definitely done that. So what have you learned from taking risk? What have you learned from these different areas you've moved and lived, and perspective wise, even with the kind of job you have?
Yeah, I'd say I was one of those people that at first was like, no way, I'm leaving. I was fortunate enough to excel in my career and be promoted at the property that I started at. I became a leasing manager, a senior leasing manager, assistant manager, and a property manager all at the same property. It's not a common theme in most places, as sometimes those are long-term held positions. And so as those positions came available, I challenged myself to learn the ins and outs of those roles. And if I knew if it was in the foresight that it would become available, then I'd do the work ahead of time. But in terms of uprooting and moving, that was a scary time for me. Change is scary, especially when you're going away from your levels of comfort, especially that being your family and friends that are in your hometown. So my
Right.
first big move was from the Kansas area out to Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was to take on a challenging out in Cincinnati that catered to the University of Cincinnati. And in that the 2 years I was out there, it's definitely a time that I think I grew the most. Again, being that it was the first time away from my family, I didn't really have anybody to lean on directly. We benefit from this age of technology that we're in, and that I could call anybody at any time, but to actually go to somebody for comfort, for an in-person conversation, or just to relieve myself from either a stressful situation or even a loner situation, you look inward a lot and you figure out like, hey, I can get through this, I can do this. And it ended up being a positive time for me. I enjoyed Cincinnati, and my time there propelled me to take on another challenge in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And that was on a whim that fell into place really quick. There was a transition of management and ownership at the property in Cincinnati. And then from there, a new opportunity opened up with a competitor, Campus Advantage. But I had some former peers that worked for them and got in contact with them, and they got in contact with me and decided to move up to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and moved up there December 1st. Not a great time to move to Michigan. I don't recommend it, but I got to
You got the
experience.
full taste.
Yeah, I got to experience the full winter up there, and
Yeah.
yeah, I helped out there, really rebuilt operations and structure for the team and got the property going in the right direction. And then from there, another opportunity arose and jumped at it. It's what landed me here in Iowa City, Iowa with Tailwind now. So
So when it comes to the different experiences and the different properties, even the different companies, have you noticed that there's drastic differences between company and such, or is it management is property management?
I think in a broad sense, we all do the same thing. We're all managing an asset. We are managing the resident experience. We're overseeing accounts receivable, accounts payable. So in the broad scheme of things, the industry, but the companies do have different operation levels, a different structure within its own company. And it's something that going from one to another, I've definitely appreciated each of them for who they are and what they are. I think the underlying thing I've seen is that each one definitely cares about their people and their employees, and the end goal is to make sure that their people are felt appreciated and felt heard, felt seen, and are supported in their careers.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad you've had positive experiences with each company, and you still are here, you still want to be in this industry. Something I see pretty often in that group. For instance, there's quite a few people that say they're burnt out, that they don't want to do this anymore. They're done. So I think one thing that you seem to have passion for is really pouring into and leading your team. And that's a big part of it, right? Motivation and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to learn what drives you there.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point there. Is the industry alone and working in property management, it can be taxing. Plenty of days where I woke up and it's wondering, why am I still doing this? You're dealt with some tough hands sometimes, but that's also the part that I enjoy is how can we get through it? It's not just, I don't see a roadblock here. I want to see, are there ways over it? Are there ways around it? Can we get through it? And I love taking leadership in those type of just different situations and helping my team members, or even individuals just learn alongside of me. Look at each one of those opportunities as an opportunity for challenge, an opportunity for growth. Because once you get through it one time, then any other times that you're faced with a similar situation, you can often navigate it a little bit easier or with better perspective, or you can fine tune what you did previously. So I'm always looking for that type of innovation, that type of efficiency within the processes. But you don't know until you dive right in. I don't shy away from the challenge too often. And yeah, it's something I really enjoy, is just taking things head on.
Yeah, that's good. I think some people are afraid of that and afraid of change, trying something new. You've shown that there can be a reward to that. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but like you've told me, there's growth through the discomfort, right?
Yeah.
It stretches your mind a little bit. It makes your brain like shift a little bit, and it just helps you appreciate certain things more, I think. So, is there
Absolutely.
anything that you do as a leader that you learn from other people, other leaders, other people in your profession, or
Yeah,
in your path, I guess?
I've had a lot of great mentors, and just how available they've made themselves to me is something that I try and do myself to others that might be my own subordinates or workers in different positions under me. I want to make sure that I really get to know them. I want to figure out what is their end goal. And like most people, they probably didn't come into this industry wanting to be in it. But can we spark an interest? Can we light a fire? Can we get them really invested into it? And if so, then how can I further invest in their growth? It's just always something I'm constantly trying to navigate, and with different people they respond differently to it. When you're managing people, that's a big challenge, is that not everybody's the same. So really figuring out who the person is, what drives or what motivates them, and how can you work alongside them to help them reach their goals or max potential.
Right. Yeah, and when you are in that role of being a leader, you also get to see people develop and improve or take on that new role or take a risk, which is rewarding. So I'm sure you've been able to experience that side of it too, not just you're not just pouring into people and then not seeing anything. So,
Yeah,
is there any
elevating those. Yeah, it's
yeah,
something. Sorry, yeah, something I
no,
really
no.
enjoy though is training your replacement is something that's the mindset I want to have always. Is I'm in this role, but I have my own ambitions to continue to succeed, continue to grow as well. But I want to have other people that have that opportunity too. So I always want to, like I said, spark that interest in somebody, and whoever definitely expresses it, I want to try and train them to either become my replacement or take on another role that they see as something they want to be within. For those that are looking for that type of growth, I think something that's helped me is always asking questions. If you see a role that you might find interesting, ask questions to that person or to a person that's in that role right now. Figure out what it is they do on a daily basis. What do they enjoy about it? What don't they enjoy? What does the job entail really? And then even from there, you develop a great relationship. You can even ask to sit in on working sessions to say, hey, I just want to observe, I want to be in your way, or if you have time, if you want to walk me through it, I would love, to learn about what you do and see it firsthand, as it's something that I myself I'm interested in.
That's good. So tying back to you getting an award for innovation, what are some of the things that you've been able to implement that got you recognized?
Yeah, I think one thing that really stood out when discussing that nomination or the award itself was we had a rent and delinquency challenge, I think, at some places. And I was able to bring the different things that I've learned from being an assistant manager, being a property manager at different properties throughout the Midwest region. And I had already developed a delinquency timeline, per se, a timeline of communication, a timeline of action, different notices and resources to use to really help throughout that process of collecting efficiently and using your time wisely. That way it was in an organized approach, organized manner. And then also helping develop a similar timeline for former residents, resident collections as well. Outside of that, it's just being involved in different discussions. We have monthly talks with Tailwind where it's an open discussion and providing my own viewpoints and perspectives on certain challenges that the company faces at that time. And it's like I said, it's received and it's taken in, and we've grown as a company exponentially these last 2 years that I've been a part of it. And I think I've had a helping hand in some of the operations structure that was built out with that growth.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's always best to get the feedback from the people that do the work day to day in the office, seeing the challenges beyond rent delinquency. What other challenges do you get faced with that you wish there was either a piece of technology or something out there for you to meet that as a
Yeah, I think
solution?
being in different cities, different states, there's different ordinances, there's different state laws, and it varies state to state as well. So when you go somewhere new, you kind of have to dig in and really get familiar with tenant landlord laws. And while there may be a lot that are similar state to state, there's some that vary and some that require you to vary your operation as a whole too. Within the state of Iowa, where I'm at, for example, it's a pretty extensive process when trying to take appropriate legal action for non-payment of rent. It's something I'm actually working on this week, and it's working on those that were for a prior month. So it's a long tenured process that takes a lot of detail oriented. And it's something that I had to find out just through trial and error. We took the opportunity to hire local representation, and I just really observed. I really asked a lot of questions. I made it to the point where now we don't have to have local representation to move forward in that process. We can just do it all in house. But it was just, again, taking that initiative to learn and become competent with it and really hone in the different details and skills that are required to carry it forward.
Yeah. So do you, because of that situation, because you've gone from place to place and seen there's sometimes commonality but also slight differences, do you think that there's like an opportunity to like create something to be more helpful? And because there's companies too that float between areas, right? So they
Yeah.
have properties all over the place, such as your own. So being able to have that resource that's just updated by somebody and shared, and maybe you pay to use it, but I don't know if that's already out there. But
It's something that Peak Campus was a great company that had something similar to that, where they had like a legal binder, I guess you can say, a resource where it was state by state, certain common scenarios and what their local state laws were. And Peak Campus's operations team reached out to a lot of on-site teams to say, hey, you guys are the professionals in this area. Let's figure this out and put together this resource. And they combined a lot of that material into a single resource that's available to the different properties, different managers, team members within the company, to a SharePoint drive or a shared drive that where is that if I was a new employee, I could go there and click on it and say, okay, if it's a non-payment of rent issue, these are the different restrictions we have as a property or the different steps we have to go through collectively to get to the end goal that we wish to achieve. If it's a clear and present danger issue, these are the steps XYZ. It kind of gives you a handbook, for instance, or for say to help navigate some of those situations a little bit easier without having to go directly to a local representation where it can become costly.
sure, yeah, that sounds like it was pretty helpful.
Yeah, it was great. And we have an internal legal team at Tailwind and Tailwind as well. And they're very helpful too with navigating those types of situations. It's another opportunity, I think. And if it's already in place and I just don't know about it, that's awesome. If not, I'd like to have a hand in helping build that out too.
Yeah, like you say, if it doesn't already exist, I think it'd be a helpful tool regardless, for because you probably have exactly what, um was it Peak, you said
Yep.
that what they were doing internally is probably redundantly being done across all these different companies in some form or fashion. And everybody's got to have lawyers and all this stuff. So if there was a resource, I'm sure it would be welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to look into.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you got something there.
I know, right?
Thanks for sharing all that. Is there anything else? First of all, if anybody that's watching has a question, feel free to ask. Also, let us know where you're watching from. It's always fun to know where people are located and how they're supporting the Bo. Let
See
us know.
some friendly names in the chat already. It looks like we have
Yeah.
Marcel Thomas, good buddy
Yep.
of mine in Las Vegas. Jennifer out in Kansas City recently obtained a regional manager position. Congratulations, Jen. But both of those are definitely peers of mine that I highly admire and love to see their growth and continued stories as well.
Yeah, Marcel, he was on Boss Talks about a month or two ago. So it was great to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess just some kind of wrapping up points. I think some advice I have, or at least some things that I also try and focus on, is really celebrate your people. And the one way I try and do that is I make note of everybody's birthday and I put it in my calendar as soon as either they're hired or as soon as I'm hired and acquire a team. I set myself a reminder at least 4 days in advance of their birthday to do a handwritten personal card and a small gift, and I have the entire team sign it. Not only do I do that with birthdays, but anniversaries as well. And it becomes an expectation when you do it enough, but at the same time, it's a nice gesture, and people really love to know that they are seen and appreciated on their days that are important to them. And then one thing I try and do as well is not only do that for the workers that are under me, but even getting familiar with who your own boss is and other members in the company that you may work with, and trying to do the same for them. It doesn't have to be a handwritten note. It can be something as simple as like a instant messenger message just saying, hey, happy birthday to you, or congratulations on reaching X amount of years with the company. You're appreciated. And it goes along. That's one thing I want to encourage everybody else to do that may be viewing this is definitely invest in your people and celebrate them.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. A few questions that I like to ask, being that we're community boss and the idea of community is built into that, but from a physical aspect, really the physical spaces, I always like to ask about how you personally and professionally build community day to day, whether that's through your job or just your life.
Yeah. I think it's both. Right now, my professional life takes up a lot of my personal life too, going through these different transitions from property to property. I like to dive in and just really be work focused, but I've learned a lot lately to have a work life balance as well. Building community within my own community. I want to make sure one, we have a great community within our team, a great working environment, one that people working across their own certain titles with other people, and then just having a fun environment itself that people can really see from the outside in. And then we also want to build that resident experience. And how can we do that? It's always, do we put out a lengthy survey, or are we putting out even shortened surveys once a month to say, what would you like to see as a resident in terms of events? And then just a lot of us have years of experience as well. We've seen ones that work and ones that don't, but really capitalizing on them. Excuse me. And just trying to host the best event we can. But one thing I really share with my team all the time is make sure we don't have a great event that nobody knows about. We want to make sure we advertise it as well.
Yeah.
We want to make sure our residents are familiar with what's going on in the community, what the dates are, what all each event entails. And then, yeah, just community outside. I have a really big community of my own in my own personal life. I have friends from all over, and fortunate for that as a result of going to Haskell. I see somebody here in our chat that's a Haskell alum, but literally anywhere you go in the country, one thing I found is that there's always going to be somebody that went to Haskell, which is amazing to me. And just developing those long-term relationships. It's been fun for me. I've gone all over the nation and visited not only former teammates, but just former peers from Haskell, and that community to me is amazing.
Yeah, it's great that you have that connection to your college, because especially since it's not like it's a huge college, so to be able to have that connection is really awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it. You were able to actually make connections across the large.
Yeah. I guess one thing I don't have on my old resume and whatnot is I'm a board member for the Haskell Foundation as well. It's similar to an endowment.
Okay.
I've been fortunate to have that position and that opportunity to help that foundation grow and support the university. And we're looking to have our next quarterly meeting coming up soon. So we'll be looking forward to getting back to Lawrence and the Haskell community and giving our input and help where we can.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, next question. If you were to have somebody over for dinner, what would you cook for them?
I want to say Indian tacos, and I don't know if you've ever had them. It's similar to like Mexican tostada, but it's American Indian fry bread.
Oh, I've had that. It's delicious.
Yeah, so imagine that with all your taco fixings. You have beans, you have hamburger meat, or you can even do bison, and then you have shredded cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, sour cream. I'm getting hungry just talking about it, but
Yeah, that sounds great.
would love to say I could cook that. I have to lean on my sister and my mom for those recipes and whipping up the bread though. Outside of that, I don't know, a good little chicken and rice meal, or I guess my go-to is always, it sounds simple, but it's mac and cheese mixed with andouille sausage and broccoli.
I'm sure that sounds tasty.
Yeah.
And then finally, we are from the great state of Washington, Seattle, and we have a strong representation of the coffee industry on our team, actually, whether that's baristas or in other capacities. So if you could pick a favorite coffee drink, what would it be?
Oh man, if you ask my team, it'd be none. I don't really drink coffee much, honestly. I guess if I had to choose one, I like the frozen drinks or the frappuccinos and whatnot.
Okay.
But in terms of a straight up coffee flavor or coffee, it's something I haven't really dabbled in myself yet. But Seattle, Washington, it's a great area. I got actually family up that way as well. A little bit east of you in Yakima, the Yakima Nation out there. So shout out to them while I'm on the call.
Yeah. Awesome. So if not coffee, what would if you had a warm drink of any kind, do you have a preference then?
Warm drink would be like a warm tea. And I know there's tons of flavors of tea. I probably can't give you a straight answer on that one. I usually just drink unsweetened tea.
Okay.
I drink it cold, so iced unsweetened tea. But yeah, that'd probably be my go-to, that or hot chocolate on a cold day.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't beat that. Bo, thank you so much for being a guest on episode 18 of Boss Talks. Almost lost where we're at. Just like Bo jumped in and said yes to being a guest, you too can. And if you want to be on Boss Talks, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can email me at ehappel@communityboss.com or however else you want to get a hold of me. But I'd love for you to be a part of the Boss Talks family and jump in, take a risk, and put yourself out there for others to know about you. So thanks again, Bo, for being on Boss Talks. And until next Wednesday when we go live again, this has been Bo Schneider on Boss Talks.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, everyone.